All right. Well, I feel like we got a good amount of people on, so we'll, get started and other people can, join in and listen in. So thanks everyone for coming. This is first town hall of several, so you guys know. This one will be about return to play and what our community can do during this time. We will have the same discussion on a later date on the 15th at a different time so that we can get people to try and make these meetings. We want as many people from the community to be able to come to these and talk with us. So we're repeating this one again so that whoever couldn't make it today can hopefully make it to the next one. And then we're also having another town hall about board structure and elections. That will be Saturday, August 8th, and again, Sunday, August 23rd. So look out for those, and we hope to see you guys on the other town halls as well. My name is Nahal. I'm one of the board members. We also have several board members on this call. We got Sonia. She's waving a pen. We got Jackson. We've got Grant, who's there at the bottom on my screen. Joanne.
Hey, y'all.
And I think Chris is on as well.
I am.
Great. So yeah, the purpose of this is just to get the community thinking about what we want from LAOUT and what we expect going into the elections and how we can all be a support system for one another during this time. So we'll get started and I will toss it over to Sonia.
Hey everyone, it's good to see the faces of those of you who are showing your faces. I appreciate that. It's been a long time. I haven't seen a lot of you in a while, so this is nice. So we're gonna just start off talking about things that we can do as a community while we can't play. I mean, obviously we all would love to be on the field playing, but that's not an option right now. Safety first, as always. So we wanna hear your ideas of different things that we can do, whether they're fun ideas, whether they're serious ideas, anything that you can think of that you'd like to see us do as a community. Feel free to throw ideas out.
I know that like LA, some of the leaders of LA clubs have talked about more serious ideas, I guess. So I feel like there have been a lot of serious talks that have been going on among different teams and the community as a whole and emails that have been sent out. So maybe focusing at least right now on something a little lighter. Like I think having a fun community event would be kind of nice.
That's a great idea. Thank you for suggesting that.
Some ideas that we have thrown. There's a whole lot of cats in that picture. Sorry. Did I say anything about being easily distracted?
I don't own any actual pets, so that's the best I got.
Thanks. So thoughts, ideas. We could do like Zoom competitions. I know that there are some things going on. There's a game Don I know is doing. There's a whole group, you guys are playing some kind of game thing that people are watching. This is the old lady version of it's a thing that the kids are doing these days. You know, if you guys have ideas for things that we can do, video games, like maybe, oh Lord, I am gonna sound real old. What's that one, Smash? Or any other big video games that you can do a lot of people playing at once. I know you can play like 8 players or something like that. If you guys have any ideas of different games like that that we could play.
Pictionary.
Pictionary?
That's what the youngins play nowadays.
There's also 2 separate Ultimate related Rocket League groups that are competing. I think there's like a college one and like I think there was an AUDL one for a little while, but didn't. Yeah, I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, love it.
BGF had a house party a Zoom house party where one of the guys DJ'd and then everybody else just talked and danced along, and they also had drag shows, so via Zoom. So that's one thing BGF did. I don't know if that can be applied to us.
I'm putting it on the list.
Yeah,
I
like
would.
to get them to join us and do some drag shows. That's great.
I would love it if we actually brought back the awards. We didn't have awards this year, and I feel like that's something that we could do online.
Yeah, that was one of those things that we were working on, and it got pushed back, and then quarantine happened. So thank you. That's a good one. I know disc golf is an option. I don't know if any.
Disc golf. Did you see what happened in Pasadena last week?
No,
Yeah.
what happened?
They pulled up
Sad.
all the baskets.
They had an underground tournament, no social distancing, but live streaming, and somehow live stream found its way back at Pasadena Parks and Rec, who came in and pulled all the poles.
Oh, wow.
On a related subject, Pasadena has put a serious fence all around Victory. Their attitude seems to be, you can be a knucklehead, you just can't be a knucklehead here. And I think that's what's going to determine when we go back, don't you? When they actually take down fences around fields.
Yeah.
Not to hijack the topic or anything.
No, that's okay. Well, that just, people who don't wear masks, that's why we can't have nice
People
things.
that don't wear masks. That's why we can't have nice things. Is that what
Yeah.
you said?
Yes.
I think disc golf, when people are being careful and not getting too close, is one thing. But from what I've seen, and this is probably I haven't seen really any of the LAOUT Ultimate Community at these disc golf courses, but the disc golf community in general in this area is not masking well. So just something to be aware of if you are trying to find outdoor activities. It's really easy to stay away from other players, which is what's nice. You can kind of be in your little group of masked players and not be near the other players, but it's not a community that's really masking at all. In any of the places I've gone, I've started to play a bit more since the quarantine, and it's like 80-90% of the people at the courses are not masked.
Is that what you've seen too, Don?
I haven't gone disc golfing since I think February, March, since this first started, because of it. So
Have Jeff and Lou said anything about it?
they said they've been in small groups and everything. They've been going every weekend, but I'm not going with them.
Chris,
yeah.
sorry, Don.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, Chris has played quite a bit, and I went with him last weekend, and there was a group of probably 8 to 10 people that weren't playing. They were just sitting very close to a hole and picnicking, so that you would be essentially 7.5 feet away from them. But it was a group of at least 10 adults just sitting there, not masked, drinking, and
What course was that?
That was El Dorado.
Huh. Yeah, I was just there. What's today? Sunday? I was there yesterday, and most of the people weren't masked, but nobody was sitting next to a hole. So myself and a couple of other Ultimate players were there, and we play masked, and we are almost always the only ones I see that are actually masked, and we stay far away from all the other players.
We'll put that idea on.
But it is fun. And you can stay away from people and you can stay masked. It's hot outside right now, but once we get through the summer, we're still going to be probably distancing. So for quite a while, it's a good outdoor activity.
For people who don't currently play disc golf, is that something you might be interested in to get a disc-related activity?
I'm playing Safari Golf, in local parks with my one playing partner. If you want a good workout, just do that at speed. Speed golf. One ultimate disc. Make up the holes as you go along. You can run as fast or as slow as you want and as long or short as you want. You can also chart your course on the fly so you're never by or among other people. Just pick holes where people ain't. It's a good way to use available public space. Get in a workout and not touch anything.
Coming with the fun ideas. This is a time when people are
Online poker?
online poker.
I've had some success, well, just participating in a group of home poker players have found home poker software, and it's all play money, but you can have somebody be a bank and collect whatever, $5, $10 that you're playing for. The point is that you can play with the same people that you would be playing with in real life and nobody else. So it's not like the bad old days of online poker where you didn't know who you were playing against. That's been fun for me.
Cool.
But the only thing.
Any interest in things like trivia? Or I know I ran a virtual scavenger hunt with the UCLA team where they were trying to, basically I tried to limit it to things they could take pictures of themselves doing or things they might be able to find around their house.
I like that.
Yeah, that's very like let's make a deal back in the day. Like, again, I'm old. Back in the day when they'd say, what's in your purse? And, you know, who has a piece of gum or some random stupid thing.
Or like a Family Feud type Zoom game.
That would be fun as well. We could get teams, or we could do it at random.
And I know lighthearted activities were mentioned, but you know, would people also be interested in if we could organize like volunteer opportunities that people could do individually, you know, whether it's volunteering your time at home or other elements that, you know, we could get involved in as a community. I don't know if that's something that people would be, you know, wanting to take on at this time, but that was just another suggestion. Got some thumbs up. Cool. Yay.
Yeah, we could do, I know that, yeah, like Lindsay mentioned, the clubs are doing some fundraising right now, which is great, and I love it. So I don't want to, like, right now overextend our community and be like, money, money, money. But if there's things that you think of that we could do, like volunteer-wise, I know myself, I work with a couple of different organizations where we're passing out food to people in need and that kind of thing, that if somebody knows of something like that, that we could get involved in, and we could get a group of people, anybody who may not currently be working or is working from home and has some flexibility, that they can take 3 or 4 hours off in the middle of the week to go help do something like that. If you know of organizations, let us know so that we can add that to our list.
Another way to support that is through an online auction. I would contribute to that. I'd contribute that piece of art right there.
Very nice. Kind of along the same lines, going again more towards the serious notes, there's a lot of good events going on as far as protesting and things like that. If people are interested in going in as a layout, as a group of layout, meeting up and marching together or something like that, we are open to those options as well. Any other ideas?
We were looking for simple games. I posted a couple links of what we use during advisory, what we've been using for some of the kids' games. Cell Shockers is something like, it's a FPS. really easy to like just go on the website and make your own server, play with your friends. Same thing with Scribble. That's Pictionary. That's a Pictionary game that's really accessible and easy to use. Splix is this like game where it's like boundaries, you're claiming land over people. It's once you start playing, it's pretty self-explanatory. And then there's like a tag game as well that the kids like to play. But those are options if you want to set up like just community events, maybe game nights of sorts. Maybe like set up a little tournament, because some of those things you can set up as teams, and maybe people can gather their own teams to enter if they want.
Cool. Thanks for sharing those.
Yeah. I love the idea of people coming in with teams. I also would love to see us do some team events where it's random, because I think we have a lot of people in our community who feel comfortable when they are on the field or on a team playing, but when they get on a meeting or get in the group me, they might feel intimidated and not want to join in. So I think if we can organize some of those random groups as well to bring in those people who might not be as comfortable in the crowd. So I love that. Please feel free to send us more ideas. Like, this conversation doesn't need to end. We want to keep this going because, you know, returning to play is not going to happen for a while. We want to make sure that it's equitable in order for us to get back out on the field. So please continue to send us these. These are some fun ideas.
Something that we did was like a themed movie night. So we did like a dress up and Bond movie night. So I think with like Amazon Prime or something, there might be able to be one person that kind of like is in charge of the movie and shares their screen with everyone else. And then in a Zoom call, you can also like see everyone. So that was kind of a fun night.
Okay.
And I don't know if anyone likes crafting, but maybe if people have like art supplies at home, it could be like a Zoom wine and paint night kind of thing. And then we can all like try and paint the same, you know, picture and then see what everyone creates at the end. Something like that. I know I like to do like activities sometimes.
Love that.
I dig it, yeah.
I like the, you said crafting. I'd like that as a drawing or painting. Is that what you said?
Yeah, you know, if you have like paper or if you have canvas, you know, whatever medium you have, you can, you know, take the tools you have.
And everybody executes on the same model.
Yeah, we supply
That's
like,
fun.
you know, a picture of some sort and everyone, you know, creates their own version of it.
Everyone
and
tries their best.
yeah, and then you can
Love
chat
that.
and hang out while you do that.
I kind of accidentally bought maybe like 20 canvases in bulk a long time ago that I've never used. So if anyone really wants a canvas for something like that, you can pop it outside.
Here, have a few.
I actually just did the same thing. Look at that.
I'm so happy she said accidentally.
Yeah. My accidental
Wonderful.
purchases are always food.
I don't know how that happened.
It's so weird.
So when do you think we'll return to play? When do we think we'll return to play? Just as a betting proposition.
All right, so we can get into this. So how about instead of thinking about when we could return to play, let's talk about what it might look like, you know, what might need to happen in order for people to feel comfortable returning to play. And keep in mind throughout all this entire conversation, like, how do we keep this equitable the entire time, right? It might be okay for some people to return to play earlier. That doesn't necessarily mean we should. So I mean, we already know some people there's underground pickup games going on this whole time that, like, well, just because those are going on doesn't mean we want to get the rest of LA out playing, and we're not happy that those are going on, but can only tell people to do so much. So yeah, Sherry just put a good question in the chat, like, what are the metrics that need to be met for return to play? We don't know right now. How do you guys feel?
Well, we'll have our cue from the larger social forces. We're seeing right now that organized professional sports is problematic at best. We don't see that recreational sports like softball are happening, or even tennis. I don't know what is or isn't happening, but when soccer opens up again, we'll know we can open up again. And I think it'll be under the same circumstances, that it will be known that that sort of gathering of people, whether it's 14 ultimate players or 14 soccer players, is no longer contributory to, a pandemic. Whether that's post-vaccine or post-community exposure, or never post. But it's not like it won't be known to us when we can start, because evidence of other people making the same decisions will be all around us. They might not be as nuanced in terms of supporting equity. Like, the pod phenomenon that's happening, learning pods, where rich people are hiring tutors to tutor their pod of kids, and it's just inherently has bias built into it. Under similar circumstances, I can see privileged neighborhood Little League getting started sooner, and we wouldn't want to be taking our cue from that, according to consensus. But certainly that information will be out there for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Shara, I know you work in the health profession. Do you have thoughts on this?
Yes, sorry, I was answering emails. I'm on call, that's why I'm not on video right now. So pretty much what's going on right now as far as recreational sports and when it's safer to play, as of right now, things like tennis are still being allowed in certain counties. So it's a county by county basis as far as what is going to be allowed to be played. I know that Orange County pretty much has everything back open. Is it safe? No. But are there protests? Yes. So I don't think that the OC County is necessarily somebody that we should model after. As far as what LA County is doing, is they're waiting a lot. I don't think recreational sports will be back until they can phase open the schools. Once they can safely phase open schools, then they'll start to look at recreational leagues. But as far as a vaccine goes, there will be a vaccine by the end of 2020. As far as
that's based on what do you say that? Or I'm just interested to know more on that subject.
Based on what? Based on CDC guidelines. Based on CDC guidelines, based on the contacts that I have at the DOJ and DOD. So these are the big players that are backing up these vaccines.
That's cool.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. The thing that it always comes down to is it comes down to money. So we have to pray that they don't lose any money. None of these pharmaceutical companies lose the money, because once we lose the money, that's when the testing halts. That's what happened with SARS. That's what happened with MERS.
Well, they won't run short of customers if their product works.
True, but the way vaccines are made is they're made with government money. So as long as the pool of government money stays at where it is, we'll be looking at a vaccine by, like I said, by the end of the year. Oh, and then there's a comment in the chat, sorry. Shouldn't we even consider pickup again if we see no new cases for 14 days? LA activities. I think it's safer to go off of LA public health guidelines and CDC guidelines. While that is good to know that, like, yeah, I do feel that waiting the 14 days and no new cases is it can be used as a good metric, but I'd rather us have some sort of basis to back us up in case something happens. So like a risk management umbrella. If we follow CDC guidelines, if we follow LA public health guidelines, we're pretty safe at that point.
Okay, so I'd like to go in that direction a little bit. So what are these sort of guidelines that people think maybe LAOUT should be putting into place? Like, should we require, this is, again, hypothetical suggestions, but should everyone be required to have a vaccine if you're going to be playing? Do we want to start with smaller leagues? Do we want to put, I don't know, 2 weeks between games? What is the definition of something being?
I don't know about making a vaccine required. We can't force healthcare on people. That is a right that people have to see a doctor. That is a right people have to want to go to the doctor. We can't sit there and force people to take a vaccine if they don't feel comfortable doing it. What we can do is we can kind of set up what are the pillars that we want to protect. Is that safety of our immunocompromised members, or members that are a little bit up there in age. 60 plus is considered immunocompromised. Our recent cancer survivors are immunocompromised. People who have asthma are considered immunocompromised. So do we want to put up a pillar to say that we want to protect these members? And by doing that, we do encourage that you do get a vaccine. If you don't, please make sure that you are aware that you're putting this population of our community at danger. I don't know, that's my answer to that. I mean, it's hard. Medicine is hard. People have rights to choose to get medicine and choose not to.
That's true, but we also, you don't have to allow people to be part of a private organization. Like, you can have requirements on something. I have a freedom of speech, but that doesn't mean I'm allowed to say whatever I want, wherever I want. And I think that's maybe more what we're looking at. Yeah, we're not saying you have to have a vaccine, but you can say if we have a private league, yes, you do have to have a vaccine to play in it. We can make that a requirement. That's not like against the law as far as
I'm just saying, I'm not sure what you guys are really willing to stand on and really willing to kind of wiggle with. But I'm just letting you know that there will be, we'll have to have a risk management team help us figure out these waivers, how to get the wording correct. I'm not a lawyer, so, but I mean, as far as health-wise go, I can definitely help with that part.
I mean, I don't know how comfortable players are going to be knowing there are, like, if we're in the future, there's a vaccine. I don't, the people who are immunocompromised are they're not going to, we're basically, if we're not requiring people to be vaccinated, then we're basically saying these members are going to be at a much higher risk for, just so that these people cannot get a vaccine and play. Like, so I don't know, that to me seems like we would basically be forcing immunocompromised people to not play because they would be putting themselves at a far greater danger than if we were requiring a vaccine to play.
Yeah, that's true. But then again, every year with the flu season, our hospital requires that their workers get vaccinated. But the thing is, if you choose not to get vaccinated, you have to make that publicly known to your boss and to the staff as well. And then we require at that point, throughout the whole flu season, you are masked the whole time. So, I mean, we could do...
Not vaccinated, but masked, is what you're saying?
I mean, that's the rules within the hospital. I'm not sure what the rules within LAOUT will be, but that is an option that can be done. I definitely believe in assertion. We have to have people assertate saying, yes, I will get vaccinated. No, I won't get vaccinated. And I think that should be something that we need to kind of think about.
Do the staff in hospitals have to disclose to patients that they're not vaccinated?
It's pretty obvious because on your badge, it says you got the flu vaccine or it says you don't.
Gotcha.
And you're wearing a mask.
Interesting.
So we'll just make everyone get a tattoo right here that says if they're vaccinated or not.
How do, Sherry, I appreciate your medical opinion so much because I, as a lay person, there's a lot of this that I clearly have no say in because I just don't get most of it. So thank you so much for giving us that medical side. Is there anyone else who has questions? Like what, for any other lay people such as myself, what are things that that would make you feel comfortable? What are things that you want to see put in place before? I mean, obviously we're going to follow guidelines and things, but what you personally, what's going to get you coming back when the time is right?
I had a few things that I just have thought about. One, as a new parent, I think that people with kids are going to be a little more leery of going out. Just not so much for the kids necessarily getting it, but just the idea that a parent gets knocked out for 2 weeks is just like an unthinkable thing if you have a little kid. And then just maybe some of the more practical stuff about like spirit circles and high fives at the end and sideline etiquette and calling really loud fouls in people's faces. I mean, just there's certain things that are going to be worth discussing, you know, cheers. I mean, these are all the things that are just parts of the game that could be problematic. So it might be worth just talking about little things too, like that.
For sure.
Yeah, you brought up some good points like would people be comfortable?
I'm not sure it would come down like that, because if the circumstances are such that you still need to be mindful of, let's say that a spirit circle is a threat and you know it's a threat, so you disallow it or ban it. In that case, the entire environment is likely to be too much of a threat. Banning a spirit circle, given, I don't know, my common sense tells me that that's not going to do the job in terms of removing legitimate threat from an ultimate game. Does that mean loose marks? And if loose marks, what about going up bidding for a disc? Or am I wrong? But it seems to me that the closeness of contact in the normal course of play is every bit as close as the closeness of contact in a spirit circle.
What were you going to say, Nahal?
Just you can like as you mentioning like spirit circles. When we're coming back to play, like the suggestion of vaccines, not vaccines, not everyone is going to have a vaccine or be vaccinated, and we're not sure where we will be. But I think that there are small things we can do to adjust to make people more comfortable and to help maybe, you know, the people who are more immunocompromised. So maybe instead of high fives, you know, it is something different. There are those small points and those things that we can do to adjust, that we can keep the spirit intact of, you know, what it is for us in the ultimate community to have these like spirit circles and, you know, different things like that, but we can adjust them in slight ways to make it more favorable for everyone, and to just have a little bit more, you know, caution after this, so that there isn't necessarily as much touching for people who might be averse to it, because after, you know, 8 months, a year of not being in contact with people as well, it might be a good idea to very slowly come back into doing the things that we were doing and giving it time for, you know, if people have vaccines or for figuring out where we go from there, giving it time.
That's a good point. We're all going to be quite gun shy in that respect.
Yeah, Nahal, I think that's a really great point, is that like easing back into things is going to be good. And I think that there are certain traditions and things like that that just aren't necessary to, like, even if we're comfortable with playing the game, that doesn't mean we all need to go line up and touch each other, right? Like high five line, like you can say good game to their team without doing that. There's other ways to do that. That's not the only way to say, you know, hey, that was a great game we just played. I do think that, you know, to JV's point, like I mean, for myself personally, like I don't really want to be playing unless we're at a point where we can just play the game like we to some close extent to what we did. Like you can't, you know, that's why we're not playing, right? You can't play Ultimate without getting close. So until we're at a point where that's considered safe to a degree that's acceptable, which we're not even close to, yeah, I don't know how much of the other stuff matters in that sense. But I do think, like Nahal said, like even when we're back to playing, we don't necessarily have to start incorporating right away all of the things we used to do, like getting in huddles and getting in spirit circles and lining up and for high fives. You know,
I think that thing that would be
no
helpful
baby.
just from a practical point of view is like communicating, like the board getting together, talking about these issues, and when we go back to play, issuing some kind of communication about it so people can feel empowered to not necessarily do the spirit circle. You know, like
Yeah.
let's say I don't want to, but everyone's like, oh, come on, do it. You know, if there's some guidelines, even if it's like, hey, we've thought, I just want to know, I think that that LAOUT has thought about these things, that has some thoughts on them, and is going to like communicate that to the community, even if it's, we don't know what to do about that, but be respectful of other people in the sense of some people are going to be comfortable, some people are going to be uncomfortable. So I think communication about this stuff, especially in so many unknown variables, is probably the best that we could hope for. So at least we're all on the same page, even if it's a we're not sure what to do page.
Absolutely. And that's part of the reason why we're having these conversations now, is because we want to get people's thoughts. We want to know, you know, what's on your mind, because maybe we're not coming from a perspective of, you know, that you have a different perspective, and we're not thinking of something like you have kids and I might not have thought of that, you know? So definitely having these town halls will let us gauge where people are and what we're feeling. And as we think about it over the coming months, when we do come to a point where we can go back to gameplay, you know, we can, you know, as you mentioned, say, you know, don't force people if they're not comfortable high-fiving, or, you know, just like general guidelines of how to be respectful to everyone on the playing field as we get back into it.
That also segues sort of into the last question or last topic we want to bring up, was just what do people want to see from the new board? Because we do have elections coming up. What do you want to see from the new board to help make this work? So obviously guidelines are part of that, and the current board is discussing this. What else might people want to see?
Yeah, we'd love to hear from some non-board members on this, especially.
Sorry, I feel like we'd be remiss to not mention the racial aspect of, like, we've talked about like the medical aspect of coming back to play, but I don't think we've talked about like the racial equity and how underserved communities are going to be coming back to playing a sport much later than, you know, the generic rich white person that is general Frisbee. I would like to kind of hear, I don't know, I don't have anything specific, but I would like to hear something. I think that should be taken into account for when we do come back to start playing, is the racial equity part of that.
Yeah, and last call we had gone over having a vaccine be accessible for everyone before stepping on the field, and I think that's something I feel most comfortable with.
Totally. I think that's a great thing to bring up. And we, like you said, we have discussed it to some extent. There still needs to be much more conversation on it, especially because we don't know what, you know, vaccination availability will look like. And I think that, I mean, currently the board certainly is thinking about that all the time. We talk about it a lot. We want to make sure that there's more equity there. I mean, the last, you know, couple of years, especially, we've really been trying to figure out ways to get, you know, our LAOUT community to be more like our Los Angeles community in terms of like, you know, not just a bunch of white people playing Frisbee and not just a bunch of white people in positions of leadership. I mean, that's, you know, it's very challenging to make those moves. We're trying to make those moves. We could definitely do better. But I think it's something that our current board is making sure we're on the same page as, but by the time a vaccine comes out, we will have a new board. So that'll be more on the new board. So I think, yeah, that's a great thing to bring up for us to make sure whatever our new board looks like, they are thinking of that equity very seriously and before they decide to start doing leagues again.
There was just a couple other things that I found sort of interesting to me, is like, I as a LAOUT volunteer, I did the sustainability stuff for the last couple of years. I just don't see how I could ever volunteer for that tournament again if it's in Huntington Beach, with the way Huntington Beach has kind of conducted itself, both with the with the with COVID and on some of the social issues. So just I'm sure this has already come up, but just as a non-board member, the idea of how we spend our money, where we spend that money, field space I think is going to be really hard to get at first because everybody and their grandmother is going to want to get outside. So, can we look at different places that might serve us? Like, playing at the, I forget the name of the place where we did a lot of Winter League. That's near me, like in West Adams. Yeah, that field exposes, that's probably one of the few times I see like children of color seeing Ultimate being played and actually throwing Frisbees with like some people. So could we move, are there fields in Inglewood? Are there fields in places that we haven't thought about that we wouldn't be taking over in some kind of like, gentrification way, but in a way that we could be part of the community more. So just like, just field space and where we spend our money is kind of an interesting topic to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think some people also have concerns about taking fields in those more diverse communities because then we're taking a more privileged community with more possible and likely more access to healthcare and then playing games in those underserved communities. And that maybe is not the best idea.
Totally, 100% understand that. There'd have to be some kind of buy-in from that community or some kind of way that community, I think, could be more involved in a way that we don't do at Rancho. We just kind of show up and, a lot of Black people leave and a lot of white people come in and there's not a lot of communication. So if there was some, outreach, some buy-in, some way to make it more communal, that'd be cool.
We've also talked about maybe making those, if we were to have those field spaces to run clinics for the community, would be an option too, to provide more of a buy-in into the community. And also maybe as our league players be able or willing to make our field smaller for maybe locals to take part of free space too. So they know that we're more than willing to, share the fields with other people, even if they haven't provided a permit per se or something like that. They shouldn't have to. So just being mindful of like, if there are local kids around looking for places to play, we should give them some space, even though we technically, quote unquote, have it.
So I know that he's a relatively controversial figure, but for a few months, Dave Adelson was going to various parks in East LA and in Inglewood and in some other areas around the city, and was having these like pop-up throwing sessions with just a few people and then giving away a lot of discs to any kids who would show up. I think something modeled on that type of like making the disc equipment widely available. I think that's like a solid baseline of creating at least the initial accessibility point for a lot of people to kind of see just how a disc is thrown and then have a disc of their own. I think that's like that could be something to emulate in some way.
So it sounds like more outreach to maybe some of the communities where we have played or, new communities, which is great. And, being definitely having the new board being mindful of where we are playing and making sure that we are keeping space for those communities and we're not just coming in and taking over. So those are all very good points.
Would people be interested? So right now we've got league committees and we have an equity committee. Would people be interested in basically a health and safety committee? Group of people that are working together to figure out what these guidelines are for return to play. Um,
Has the committee system been effective for you guys in the past? I have not been on any of these calls before or participated in any of the board meetings or anything like that. Have you found that having the committee was a more effective way to do it than to just have the board address it as a whole?
so by having the committees, it gives people who aren't on the board more of a voice. Otherwise, it's the same 9 or 10 people making the decisions.
Totally makes sense. No, I get it. Yeah, I think people that is something that I would be interested in participating in. I think that's a good point. It does bring in people outside the board and gets more participation from other people. That's a good idea.
Yeah, and we've had league committee for the last couple of years, and they've had a lot of great discussions on what our league should look like and moving forward, and how that would look. And we've gotten even people from that committee. Buster ended up running Beach League, right? So people are, give people other chances to be involved in a way where they don't have to be a board member. Obviously, not everyone wants to do that. Not a super fun job, but is kind of necessary for things to actually happen. So yeah, it's a way of maybe investing a little bit less time, but still being able to contribute to the LA Ultimate scene. And I mean, we're not really getting that much committee involvement with things. We can't really do leaks and we can't do things like that. But I think, when the new board gets up and running, they're going to want, member engagement and we're going to need member support to make anything happen coming out of this. So yeah, I think it's going to be really important to have people still involved, which is part of why we're doing this kind of stuff too, to make sure we're still engaging with everyone and people are also kind of getting engaged and touching base, and we're seeing each other's faces and remembering that we are still a community, even though we haven't been able to play together for the last 5 months.
Yeah, and to piggyback off what Chris said, the more the community is involved, in these different, committees, I think the stronger we will be, and it just will help us grow. We will get, different viewpoints for things, and we'll just get more people involved. And when we're involved, we're invested in our community, and we can help it grow more. So I think it is important to get, other people's opinions and involved in these different committees.
Would anyone else here be interested in participating in a health and safety focused committee? Or maybe this falls under the equity committee, it's something we let them lead. What are people thinking? I know some of you have an opinion.
What was the question again? I'm working, so I'm only half paying attention.
So do you think we should have a separate committee, like basically a health and safety committee that is meeting, say, monthly to do research and have discussions and give recommendations to the board on return to play? Do we think that discussion should be maybe led by the equity committee instead?
For what it's worth, regarding health and safety, in my opinion, I think that ends up being a huge liability for the board. If you have somebody recommending health and safety type things and they're not necessarily qualified for that just based on their own research, I think you're putting the board at a major liability there. I think it's a good idea, but I think if you do something like that, you need to hire professionals who do that for a living. You don't want just people from the board doing that, because the second the board recommends something health and safety wise, somebody gets injured or sick because of it, the board's now liable.
But the board's liable if you restart play without a health and safety committee too, right?
I don't know if that's necessarily the case. I think people choose to play at their own will. I don't know. I honestly don't know.
And if we're talking about league, I think it's valuable to say, have a policy, and the policy needs to be public, and it has to be the same way that the school reopening policy is based on the public health numbers. The play policy has to be based on the public health numbers, and not just what people feel like. Or the policy could be when a majority of the members of LAOUT want to start playing again. But it has to be a stated policy. It can't just be ad hoc. And having a stated policy, I can't imagine how that would open you up to liability. It feels like you'd be much more open if it was a free for all. But it's also it's league versus pickup and policy, and like there's all these events that LAOUT runs now, so people sign waivers, right?
I don't think having a policy is a bad idea. I'm just saying if you were to hire me or yourself or Jackson as the health and safety advisor, I think you're opening up a whole new can of worms that you don't want to get involved in.
I think the idea, at least again, as a non-board person and who does not come to a lot of these things, just having like a committee that not so much telling me I need to be vaccinated, but like, hey, we went through every aspect of what a normal game is, from sidelines to how we play to spirit circles to cheers, blah 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 blah. And this is what we recommend based on playing, meaning like it doesn't need to be like you have to get vaccinated. It could be like, don't pressure someone to get in the spirit circle if they don't want to. Be mindful that people have different needs, kids, disabilities, all that type of stuff, which I don't think any of that leads you down a legal road. It's just guidelines for our community that I think are going to ultimately be more important than like medical, guidelines that we would say, because everybody kind of knows what's up news-wise. I think it's more about how are we going to act when we get back, not so much what we need to do medically.
I'm thinking about it. Sorry, I had to answer emails and calls, and a lot of things just happened right now. So talking about health and risk management, I think that it does need to be separated from equity, but I think they need to work together because, as everybody knows, it is pretty common sense that healthcare is not equitable. It is very not. There's disproportionate. People are contracting diseases disproportionately. So I think that we need to have the medical professionals who are in the ultimate community work together to kind of figure out, our play policies and the metrics that we need to meet in order to have safer return to play, and then bring it with the equity community to see, okay, well, what can we make equitable? I don't know if there will be free vaccines when it comes out, but I do know that there are ways to get the vaccine to be affordable for people who may not have health care, or, have health care, but it's very limited health care.
And that's something that we've been discussing as a board over the last few months. Because, we don't have a lot of planning going on right now, but that's one of the things that we have been discussing, is that we're going to run into, a portion of our community that is not going to have access necessarily if it's not free. And we want to make sure that we are serving that portion of our community as well as the folks with insurance.
Let me just ask another question, which maybe it'll help with the consideration. Like when there was the crazy town heat wave and Beach League got canceled, how did that decision making happen? Was that just the board as a whole emailing each other and trying to figure it out and saying, is this a new policy? If it's 125 or over, then we're not doing it. And if it's under that, with the fires and everything, how has that decision come to?
Are you talking with the air quality, not necessarily with the heat wave?
Yeah, I'm sorry, the air quality. It was the fire, the heat waves. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. Not 125 degrees, 125 AQI or whatever it was.
So I technically made the call, but it's also from, I was given the board's guidelines on what on what my call had to be. So it was a guideline that the board came up with based on, I'm guessing, of health regulations. That would be the board have to tell you about that. But technically, it was my call based on what I was given to make that call.
Yeah, after we saw that there was it was something that needed to be figured out, and we looked at the data on what levels different things were appropriate for, and so we used kind of the numbering system already in place. I forget what it is, like API or whatever, the particulates per thousands or whatever it was, and we basically had to just say, here's the number. USAU has a number as well, and we use that as part of our approach. I don't remember specifically what we decided the cutoff was. Yeah, but we basically had to pick a cutoff where we felt it was no longer up to the players, because even though technically they could still be outside at the level we chose, they shouldn't. We should be saying, you guys should not be playing. Y'all shouldn't be playing, and we did that. So yeah, it was kind of a board decision that, and like Buster said, she was the one who implemented that. But it was a guideline that we realized we needed to be the ones to create and discuss. If it was going to be an LAOUT league, we had to have a policy for it.
And we looked at a variety of different sources. We didn't just randomly pick one and go, okay, whatever this one says, that's what we're following. Like there was some research put into it, looking at different organizations and all of that. So when it comes to making those policies, there's a lot of thought that goes into it and research behind those. But like Chris said, we needed for there to be some kind of policy in place just for everyone's safety and well-being.
Just to be respectful of everybody's time, it is just after 5:30 now, so I know some of us are probably happy to hang out and let the discussion continue for a bit longer, but if people want to wrap up, we understand.
And if you do have any thoughts, opinions after this, you can always email the board and let us know, if you had an idea about something, always feel free to communicate that to us.
Or come to the next meeting.
Yeah, there are more meetings coming.
Sherry, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
You said that you expected the vaccine to be by the end of the year, but how soon would that be scalable and available? I mean, do you have an estimate guess on that?
That is going to be the tricky part, because like I said, I don't know if there is going to be a free vaccine. That is very, very rare to come by, to have any vaccine brought out to the general masses at free.
Right.
So, because it is a business, I hate it. I hate so much that healthcare is a business. People want to make money off of this. There's a reason why, there's so many different pharmaceutical companies, and every single pharmaceutical company decides to make their own vaccine, and they price point it differently. Same thing with hospitals. There's no set standard charge. There's a charge list that each hospital makes up on their own. So, but yeah, I know that the vaccine will be ready for the mass population end of the year. Do I have an exact date, month, time? No, unfortunately I don't, because it's got to go through, it's in phase 3. So what is phase 3? That means that they test thousands of people and see how they react to the vaccine. Phase 4 is that we take a look at the people that we've already vaccinated from phase 1 all the way up to phase 3. And it's what we consider like the long-term effects. So it's how are they doing after the vaccine was given to them. Usually by that time, sorry, that's my dog. That is how, okay, I think he's done. Yeah, that's usually when vaccines are out. I am a person that, like, when the flu vaccine comes out, I wait 2 months, because that's when the CDC will let me know, yes, this is a good vaccine. It's going to protect you from the flu that's going to kill you. Or, yeah, you know, it only protects about 75% of the flu that might kill you. That's me. That's how I work with vaccines. But usually, yeah, I mean, I will work as hard as I can with my contacts to figure out, you know, is this going to be a vaccine that's going to be free to the public? Or is there a way that we can find ways to make this affordable for people who don't have insurance and they're not paying thousands or hundreds of dollars out of their pocket to get it? I hope that answered your question.
If a vaccine
Yes,
only,
thank you.
if a vaccine only gives you like 75% protection, are we sort of, at least from an ultimate point of view, like right back at square one where you're sort of rolling the dice a little bit?
I don't know. That's for the board to decide. I mean, I don't know exactly. I have to research more into the vaccine that they're making for COVID-19, because as of what I understand, the COVID virus mutated, but it's not like the flu where the flu mutates every single year. And that's why every year there's a new vaccine that comes out. This virus mutated over about a decade of change of years. So that kind of also plays into another, you know, another wrench into the crystal ball of how do we figure out what is safer.
Thanks.
Yeah, a lot of this we might just not know until months down the line. Like we can talk about it a lot, but until it's out and people are getting it more, like.
Yeah, for herd immunity to work, you'd have to have at least 50% of the population get the vaccine. And then once that happens, herd immunity will actually start to work.
All right, does anybody have anything else they want to talk about? Any other questions, either for the board members that are present or Sherry?
I apologize because I missed the very beginning, probably about 20 minutes of conversation. Is the stated goal that we don't return to play until we feel it's completely safe, or that we come up with the correct policy to mitigate risk? And because that could mean no vaccine at all. That could mean universal testing and squashing outbreaks, which is sort of what the real public health strategy is going to have to be if the vaccines don't work. Is the goal for us to feel as safe as we did a year ago, or is it to come up with a policy that allows people to feel comfortable playing because they've mitigated risk?
That's going to have to be probably a health and risk safety committee decision at that point to figure out. I think we talked about wanting to have policies, health-wide policies for the league, and then kind of figuring out what are our metrics that we want to meet. We're never going to be 100% safe. I'm sorry, this virus has changed the way that everybody thinks about public health. And I hope it's for the better. So yeah, it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell because we don't, as of right now, my understanding is that the board doesn't have metrics exactly set up for when to return to play is. And there's a lot of things that the board is kind of handling right now, and that's when is it safe to play at a public health standpoint, and when is it equitable to play for the community as a whole.
Yeah, and so you didn't miss too much in that regard in the beginning. We don't know. We haven't decided. There's an election coming up, and the new board will need to also be thinking about this as we get more information. That's why we're having these conversations, is to get an idea of what our community feels is, what our players are saying. Like, well, I'm going to come back when this, or I'm thinking this. We want to know what you all are thinking. That's going to obviously, come into play in terms of our own discussions on what return to play looks like. But I mean, the short of it is we're not going to return to play anytime soon as an official organization, as you might have guessed. And yeah, I mean, no sports are happening right now that are anywhere close to our contact level. So until the country and the world as a whole has more guidelines and more control of the virus, yeah, we're not going to return to play. So I mean, we're a ways off. But we want to have
that's not. It may be true that there's no leagues happening like that, but there's certainly plenty of sport happening in LA and in the country. It's just being responsible as a group is absolutely admirable and 100% the way to go. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we're not, and I recognize that. I mean, people are playing Frisbee, right? People are playing Ultimate, rather. And that's their prerogative. We're not going to have any LAOUT leagues happening until it's a much more manageable level of safety. That's the real issue. If people want to go do that, they're welcome to. That's their own choice. I can't stop them. There's plenty of people doing, mask-free activities with everyone around them. If you want to see that, just go to Orange County. But yeah. As an organization, we're going to try to be a little bit smarter than that, and we're going to be a little bit safer than that. But like Sherry said, there will probably be a point at which the safety level is enough, but it's never going to be 100% anymore, and that's probably a reality we'll have to deal with in the future. For right now, we're not even close to that, so we don't have to deal with that yet. That's future us problem.
Yeah.
Are they playing? Are they playing in Orange County? Are they playing pickup? Does anyone know?
Oh, I don't know. I know Riverside
They're playing
is.
pickup in Orange County.
Yeah.
Riverside was. I think they got the cops called on them.
Yep.
Yeah.
But just
Fullerton's
the
playing
general
too.
Orange County, nobody. If you go down there, you drive down there, it's crazy. Nobody has masks.
Yeah, just because people are playing doesn't mean that they should be. And, as mentioned, we're taking this all into consideration, and, we want to make sure it's equitable and safe before we come back, and that will be quite some time.
Well, I appreciate that. When Ramey first sent out the email canceling sort of everything, I responded saying I appreciated that because I think it's the right call, obviously. But it's going to be a while before I play for sure, and I don't play that much with LAOUT anyway. Once a year, pretty much, maybe twice.
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks everyone for coming. And again, there will be another discussion of this topic again, and there are 3 more town halls coming up. One to discuss this on the 15th, and again on the 8th and the 23rd to discuss the board structures and elections. And if you want to nominate someone for the board, nominations are open. If you want to nominate yourself, please do so. We do want to get everyone involved.
New people involved too.
Thanks for having this. This is good to have good information to share.
And it was nice to see the faces of those of you who were showing your faces.
We like your faces.
I see some of you. Yay! There are some of you I have not seen since March, and I want to see your beautiful faces. There we go. That's what I like. Great.
There's people.
Come on.
I refuse.
Don wants
You will
us
not
to-
force me to see my face. I
You
will
only-
show it when I find fit.
We've already seen your face.
Don, we know you
Yeah.
still look like your high school yearbook picture. We know.
Shut up!
Take care, everyone. Have it
Stay
there.
safe.
Now we see you.
All right, thanks everybody. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks everyone.
Have a great week. Stay healthy, everybody.
Take it easy, y'all. Have a good one.
And we
Posted. Nahal.
Goodbye, polar bear.
I'm
I'm
gonna-
Nice.
Nice.
I remember right before I was trying to finish it.
Oh, just
Right.
wow.
It does look like a polar bear.
Nice.
You made that?
On this side.
Totally see
This
this.
side looks like a polar bear. The other side,
Yeah.
I don't know what
That's
that
very
is.
cool.
I want to see the penguin.
It's so far away.
You'll have to post when you finish it.
Okay. Bye, Bye, y'all.
Bye,
Bye,
Bye.
Josie.
Okay, are we good to stop recording this now?
Yeah, I think we're good.
Hall, I think you might be in charge of ending the meeting for everyone.